that were murdered, and of course their driver, who was Ugandan. Well, the ADF boss came out and confessed that he killed or he murdered the two tourists and the driver. So in such developments, you get to realize that we'll wait to see whether justice will be served, because now evidence is out there, as the man himself had to confess of that particular incident that occurred, or the crime he did commit last year. But not only that, from the perspective of Uganda and Kenya's trade, President Yoweri Museveni will today travel to Kenya to meet his counterpart or fellow president, that is His Excellency William Ruto, in matters to do with bilateral relations, improving and of course promoting bilateral relations within the region. And that is at the backdrop of the Kenya and Uganda Joint Ministerial Commission that ended yesterday at the Kampala Sheraton Hotel, which was the second of its kind following the 2019 JMC that was hosted by Kenya in Nairobi. Many decisions were taken yesterday, and of course, the meeting in Nairobi after the president will be making his state visit to Kenya. Wait and see what will be happening and what will be decided upon as the two countries continue to seek for East African community integration, but then also looking at improving the bilateral relations between the two, and furthermore fostering trade amongst the two countries. But well, besides that, I and the team are here to make sure that we give you the news, analysis and breakdown of whatever is happening and making headlines locally and internationally. I have Olive Monica Najuma in Studio B, as well as Chantal Olive Akandinda.
Well, good morning, Jerome Paul. How was your night, your drive to work, and of course this Wednesday when we're crashing on women?
My night was okay, I should say, if that is the right word to use. And here I am for Wednesday, geared up to see what the Wednesday presents for me.
Well, I'm also geared up for Wednesday, and of course, being a woman, I love to crush on my own kind. And today, in a special way, I would like to crush on the nurses. You know, when you go to the hospital, in most cases, you go to see a doctor. But guess what? After the doctor has done consultation with you, the person that is going to ensure that you're well taken care of, that you're taking your meds and checking on you every hour, will be the nurse. So today, I'm crashing on those ladies. And by the way, Sonko, it is said that they make good wives.
I've always been told that ladies in education, or the teachers and the nurses, normally make the good wives at home. I don't know why it's like that, but anyway, when you look at the nursing profession, maybe because of how they take care of the patients, one may think as a man, because at times men want to have that kind of care.
That's very true. It is because of, first of all, the way they take care of their patients, meaning they are also patient themselves, because it's no small feat taking care of a sick person. But moving away from the crashing on the nurses, yesterday it was the rebel leader of the ADF who was arrested after the murder of the tourists, and their tour guide in Queen Elizabeth National Park confessed that he indeed murdered these tourists. And Sonko, he also goes ahead to say that the plan in the beginning had been to set fire onto a petrol station in Kasese, but to create a bigger impact. But then they were not able to do that, and they fell into an ambush of UPDF, so they split into two groups. The other group being the one that had led the attack at Lubiriha Secondary School, and later on attacked an onion van still in Kasese. Now, after that, they regrouped, and this is when he commanded the attack on the tourists and their tour guides. I feel like the security forces have done quite a good job bringing this man to book, and now we will see what judgment he will be given.
And well, of course, it does take us back to some of the statements that President Yoweri Museveni does mention at times, that these are cowardly kind of actions. If you are going to blow a petrol station, you can only imagine how many people would lose their lives then, especially the workers there and those who live close to that petrol station. But not only that, remember when the tourists were actually killed or murdered, it actually sparked off a little bit of, you know, outcry from the external world, simply because these were tourists, and the two of them were foreigners, and it was giving, you know, a bad image, or it was painting a bad image on Uganda's tourism sector. But Chantal Oliver Kandenda, how are you doing this Wednesday?
I would be fine, but I guess maybe as the day goes by, I will be better. And this is because yesterday I got a chance to go to the specialized hospital in Mulago, and I was very unamused by the service in that place. Very unamused. And I told myself when I get here in the morning, I hope someone takes this to Mulago Hospital and whoever manages it. How do you tell me that doctors are doing exams and there is one doctor attending to everyone in the hospital? You cannot be in the emergency room from 11 in the morning and you see a doctor at 6 p.m. It's still not making sense to me, and I think this needs to be checked as soon as yesterday. Well, very unamused.
Very unamused indeed, because by the look of things and the choice of words, you've decided to use does show that you're not amused.
Not at all.
In the morning when Olive Monica just crashed on the nurses, and I don't know who you're crashing
on the nurses. While she was crashing on the nurses, I was remembering that even when we got there, the nurses who should have taken even just pressure measurements did not do it until 6 p.m. So I'm still unamused.
Was it because the numbers, they were overwhelmed by the numbers? Also, when you say that doctors are doing exams, so where are the others that are not interns? Because the ones doing exams should be intern doctors.
Exactly.
Right?
That's exactly why I'm very unamused, because we should be planning better. A hospital saves people's lives. There is another part to it. Finally, when the doctor came and said, okay, go and get put into the system, we hadn't even been onboarded into the system. This is 6 p.m. and then the lady says, yes, the lady says, we stopped onboarding people into the system at midday. Very unamused. I don't know who manages that place, but we really have a problem. And this is from the emergency room, the emergency section. Now imagine from 11 to 6 p.m., what if this person had actually died? What would the hospital say or do? Would they say they tried their level best to save this person?
In
I do
the
not think so.
emergency units, the word emergency, what's the meaning?
Of the word emergency.
It lost meaning yesterday. I was very unamused. I don't have nice words for that place.
Well, indeed, and by the look of things, you get to realize it's continuing to show that our health sector, pretty much in the public service of things, we really need to step up. Continuously, people would definitely shun public centers and seek for private hospitals. But of course, the private hospitals are more higher.
When you hear the doctors talking and saying that the hospital is open, 24 hours, but the services are closed. What are you saying, 24 hours? There was only one doctor. We need to plan better. It is a hospital. A school, you can even give students a textbook and they will read. They'll copy notes, for example. Even their fellow student will dictate the notes. But this is a hospital supposed to save the lives of Ugandans. Please note that in this hospital, this particular person had paid for the gold, the gold package. And the question was, have you got value for the gold package that you have paid for? Because there is gold, there is silver, and all these packages you pay for. I am paying this money, but I'm not getting value for that money, and I'm expecting my life to be in your hands. It's still not making sense.
And well, we continue to seek for these particular services from government spaces, not only in hospitals, but in the education fraternity, and well, also in other ministries. But when you look at the state of Mulago Specialized Hospital, from what Chantal has just painted for us this morning, you get to question how the management of the hospital runs its operations and the like. Because if that is the emergency wing, then one would wonder if at all they had close to 100 patients coming in for emergency, wouldn't we have lost many yesterday? Yes. But nonetheless, we've gathered for you some news from the local and international scene. First, we are going to kick off with what is making headlines from within the country.
And we will start with the Cancer Institute. Ironic that we talk about Mulago and then we head straight to the Cancer Institute. But anyway, the Executive Director, Uganda Cancer Institute, Dr. Jackson Oriema, and other 3 officials have been referred to CID by the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament over negligence of machines and consequently causing harm to cancer patients. The Auditor General, in a report ended June 2023, notes that the key medical equipment at the Uganda Cancer Institute broke down and remained unrepaired, citing an ultrasound machine in the radiology room that has not been used since 2019 because the service provider had not serviced it. Now moving on, the leadership of the Kampala City Traders Association, KASITA, has met with over 200 traders to discuss resolutions and a way forward following their meeting with President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on May 7th. The discussions focused on the EFRES system and other tax penalties imposed by the Uganda Revenue Authority, which the traders say were not addressed by the president. The traders have agreed to keep their businesses open until June 20th, when they are expected to meet with the president again to further discuss their grievances. Away from that, Uganda and Kenya have committed to further strengthen the strategic partnerships and promote cooperation in areas of mutual interest. This was during the second session of the Joint Ministerial Commission starting 12th to the 14th of May 2024 between the Republic of Uganda and the Republic of Kenya in Kampala. The Kenya delegation was led by the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, while the Uganda delegation was led by Minister for Foreign Affairs, General JJ Odongo. Now, lastly, in our local news, the rules governing the International Criminal Court show that it is not illegal to confirm charges against the commander of the Lord's Resistance Army, Joseph Kony, in his absentia. The rules, however, ban court from prosecuting the accused in absentia, which now means that Joseph Kony will face prosecution anytime he appears in this court. This was highlighted by the Registrar ICC, Oswald Zavala Gaila, during a media brief in Kampala. Well, that does it for our local news.
And well, away from our local news, we've also gathered for you something from the international scene, away from Uganda, with which Chantal Oliver Kaninde has that and more.
Away from our country, we cross over to the U.S. now. Donald Trump's legal team sought on Tuesday to dismantle the credibility of the star witness in the ex-president's criminal trial, Michael Cohen. Mr. Trump showed no reaction as his lawyer, during cross-examination, cast Cohen as a man with personal vendetta against his former boss. Throughout the legal showdown weeks in the making, Cohen remained calm. He also said he hoped Mr. Trump would be found guilty of fraud in the hush money case. Cohen was on the stand for a second day of blockbuster testimony. He was called by prosecutors to testify about making a $130,000 hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election to prevent her from telling a story about an alleged sexual encounter with Mr. Trump. Mr. Trump now faces 34 counts of business fraud for allegedly disguising reimbursements for the payment to Cohen as legal expenses. The former president pleaded not guilty to the charges and denies having sex with Ms. Daniels. At one point, Mr. Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, asked bluntly if Cohen wanted to see Mr. Trump convicted in the case. Moving on, Israel and Egypt are locked in a row over the Rafah border crossing, blaming each other for its continued closure as Gaza's humanitarian crisis worsens. Israeli forces have taken control of the Gaza side of the crossing. On Tuesday, Israel's Foreign Minister Israel Katz said he had told the UK and Germany about the need to persuade Egypt to reopen the crossing. But Egypt says it is Israel's military operation in the area which are preventing aid from passing through. Cairo said Israel was trying to shift the blame for blocked aid. Mr. Katz said the Palestinian armed group Hamas, which attacked the southern Israel on 7th October last year, sparking the current war, could no longer control the Rafah crossing, citing security concerns over which Israel will not compromise. The world places the responsibility for the humanitarian situation on Israel, but the key to preventing a humanitarian crisis in Gaza is now in the hands of our Egyptian friends, Mr. Katz wrote on X. And lastly, we speak matters. Climate. Atmospheric river storms have wreaked havoc in the west coast and are getting bigger. These scientists chased them in the sky to predict where they will strike. In January 2024, Anna Wilson was sitting aboard a Gulfstream 4 jet observing a deceptively calm-looking sea of white clouds over the northern Pacific Ocean. Through her headphones, Wilson, an atmospheric scientist and extreme weather expert, could hear her colleague give a countdown. At the back of the plane, another colleague dropped slim, cylindrical instruments through a chute into the brewing storm below them to measure its strength as it approached the U.S. West Coast. The type of storm they were tracking is known as an atmospheric river, a weather phenomenon that has been attracting more and more attention in recent years as scientists and public race to understand its sometimes devastating impact. Research suggests that atmospheric rivers are getting bigger, more frequent and more extreme due to climate change, and the damage they cause is getting worse. Often described as rivers in the sky, atmospheric rivers are a huge, invisible ribbons of water vapor which can be several hundreds of kilometers wide and transport 27 times as much water as the Mississippi River. And that's it for climate news and what is happening around the world.
And while getting back to Uganda, we head to the dailies as we look at the front pages of the New Vision Daily Monitor and, of course, away from Uganda. And the New Vision is highlighting that among assets, government orders probe in the UK, envoy is directed to examine the title deeds as the Uganda Wildlife Authority suspends hiking the Margarita Peak. Why is that so? Find details of the same in the New Vision. Then Makerere, Deputy Vice Chancellor candidates outline plans for the future. Then HIV/AIDS, injectable ARV treatment offers hope. Find more in today's New Vision. Then Minister vouchers for conservation. The front page of the New Vision is the State Minister for Fisheries, Helen Adoa, who is also Serere District Woman MP, with an ostrich at her home in Opure village. She says that she enjoys spending time with that bird. Then also census, several cult leaders have been arrested for preaching wrong information about the census. Then Mwalimu, should expensive proms be banned? An interesting poll in there in today's New Vision. Then appointment, UNBS gets new boss. Then also elsewhere in the Daily Monitor, UK tight-lipped on Anita among alleged property as Lieutenant Doka Amini's man, who is still serving NRM government. Find more about him. Then also Uganda signs deal on free movement in IGAD states. Also the changing culture, the face of school proms. Again, the Daily Monitor is talking something about the proms here. Now, TikTok video lands 2 youth in police custody as Ugandans harvest 3 trillion shillings from betting in 10 months. Who are those Ugandans? Find details of the report in the Daily Monitor. Then away from that, the Daily Nation in Kenya is highlighting that counties face cash crisis as members of parliament clash. Now, devolution, the senators say governors have new financial obligations, including doctors, CBA. Then also elsewhere, Kenya Kwanzaa signals the end of youth fund as price stabilization lowers cost of petrol. Now, in matters revenge, Mombasa raises truck parking fees by 100 Kenyan shillings as a woman tests validity of verbal divorce. Interesting. You can find the details of that in today's Daily Nation. That is from Kenya. Now, I'll first of all ask my colleagues before we even head into the break. Olive, Monica, I think I've once asked you the same question rotating around the proms in the country. The prom conversation does seem like it's never going to leave the news, because it does seem like some people feel maybe it is high time schools banned the prom parties. But on the other side, others are saying if the parents have the money, why not spend on their children? What is your take on that?
Okay, maybe it can be handled in two ways. Proms should not be banned, because even as adults, you get a break. Over the weekend, people were at Lugogo watching Ray G, and these were adults trying to have a good time, getting a break from their mundane lives, you know, day-to-day lives. So even students need some bit of fun, and we've had proms in the name of livers parties and soch over the years. But depending on the quality of students and parents in a certain school, if you know that the curve between who has more and who has less is quite huge, then you can say maybe we can have a prom but maintain certain basics and say we cannot overdo it in this sense. We cannot have this and this done because probably some students cannot afford it. But Sonko, there are schools where every parent in that school is able, okay? So if the parents are able, if it is a school for the affluent, then why not? Let them spend on their children.
Prom parties, splashing money, helicopters.
I have no problem with how this parent, who works really hard to give a good life for their child, chooses to spend money on their child. It's not like they're giving them helicopters every single day. It was a one-off. Let's not have, our producer calls it Nugu Banton.
Some of us who are the livers parties will definitely say we are happy for these children of
Exactly.
the
They get to see something different, which is nice.
And why are we so mesmerized by the lifestyle of 16-year-olds that has been afforded to them by their parents? We need to get a life.
And this, actually, it's only because this came out to get to social media. You don't know what happens in the background. So
I've been
let's focus on the most important things.
All right. And you can definitely know that that is a conversation that still continues, not only here on UBC, but also elsewhere in the media. But that aside, we shall be returning with our newsreel this morning, as we shall have conversation relating around the situation of Ugandan workers, because a new report shows that Ugandan workers are the most stressed in the East African region. Why is that so? We need to look deeper into that conversation after the break. But for now, we do have an inspirational song coming along from Jason Mraz, Don't. Day 135 of 366. I don't know how you're moving along in the year 2024, but here we are. We are live and you're on time to waking up with us here on Good Morning Uganda on your national broadcaster. How are you doing, our dear viewer? And to you, a Ugandan out there, Monday did not seem to come with pretty good news if you're to look at it, because in Kasese, according to the police report, they are still counting a number of people who are dying because of the landslides. But not only that, because of the flooding and the like. But not only that, when you also take it to the football perspective in Uganda, former Cranes player and goalkeeping coach Fred Kajoba passed on as well. And it's not a good time for the Ugandan football fraternity. May his soul continue to rest in eternal peace. So when you look at such reports coming in on a Monday, you would definitely be praying that the week ends up so well. But nonetheless, we are here because not only did the news go on the sad side of it, but well, of course, there is also some promising bit of it if you come to think of it. And here we are delighted to make sure that we are here on a Tuesday morning to ensure that you, our viewer, get to know of what is happening, what is making headlines, not only in Uganda, but well away from Uganda. So sit back and feel part of the family and join the conversation as we'll be looking deeper in not only matters census, but then also looking at the preparations of so many of the things that is happening within the country. But then also, putting that aside, a new report, an interesting report, that is citing that only 5% of Uganda's health centers are the ones that are actually promoting better or safer family planning services. Now, that is a worrying state for our nation and for the health center or the health sector of Uganda. So that is going to be a discussion that we will as well be looking at with the team. Myself, Joram Paul Sonko, Chantal Oliver Kandinda, and Olive Monica Najuma. Olive Monica Najuma, good morning today.
Well, good morning, Joram. How was your night and your drive to work this morning?
My night was a little bit short-lived, simply because I didn't have enough hours of rest, I should say. But here I am, happy and healthy, if I'm to put it in that way.
I like the sound of that. Well, my night was also fantastic, and of course the drive to work was nice. I like driving to work when children are on holiday, because you know what? That means that there are even fewer cars on the road. Yes.
I do understand that feeling, and more so when it comes to the fact that not so many Ugandans wake up as early as that to hit the roads. It's after 6 a.m. when the roads start filling up. But nonetheless, the Tuesday is here. I don't know how prepared you are for it, and I don't know what you're looking forward to seeing or what you've been noticing in the past 12 hours.
Well, Tuesday is here. I'm excited and can't wait to see what we will be getting, especially us in the media, because as you know, yesterday morning we did talk about the cash bonanza for parliamentary commissioners, and then later on we got a letter that was not signed claiming that the letter we saw before, purportedly from the president, was actually not legit. So I'm waiting to see whether that is actually the truth.
Was brought to you by
just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting it. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
PDM, changing lives.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. Ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning and many thanks for sticking around to Good Morning Uganda. We are in for our newsville this time round. We have 5 minutes of 7 a.m. It's Wednesday. This topic is going to be an interesting one, and it's something that is going to all the workers, or what I could call the laborers. 1st May is internationally celebrated as Labor Day, or a day for the workers. And for the employed, this report is something that you would definitely share a view or an opinion about, because according to this report, Ugandan workers are the most stressed in the East African region. And Uganda is coming 2nd in Africa with the most stressed workforce in the sub-Saharan Africa, according to a new report. Now that is worrying if you come to think of it. And according to the State of the Global Workplace 2023 report that amplifies the voice of the world's employees, Uganda comes 2nd at 57%, following answers from respondents who agreed to reveal their daily stress from work. Now, of course, there are so many things that can lead to a stressful working environment. And that is what we are here to discuss about. And you, our viewer, you can as well share with us what you think has led to Uganda topping the list within the East African region and coming 2nd within the sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, there are quite many reasons: personal, spiritual, emotional, you can name it. Chantal Oliver Kaninda and Olive Monica Najuma is with me in regards to this conversation. They are in Studio B as we first of all look at this report. Olive Monica Najuma, this is a worrying report.
Yes.
And when you look at it, by just a look at the report, what are some of the findings you were able to look at?
Well, according to the report, there is also an issue of COVID-19, and many workers are stressed due to the recovery. Basically, workers are struggling with the recovery from the effects of the COVID-19 measures. Remember, some people lost their jobs and now are just surviving with jobs that are below par compared to the jobs they had before COVID-19. And also in some organizations, because of COVID-19, they're trying to recover. They're trying to find ways of, now trying to basically float in business. And because of that, some incentives have been cut. So as organizations are trying to see where to go next, their employees are struggling with the effects of COVID-19. So that has also contributed to stress among workers. Remember, budgets were cut because of COVID-19. So you find that the budgets you were using before COVID-19 vis-a-vis the budgets that employees are supposed to use right now also lead to work stress. I'll give you an example. There were people that were enjoying per diem, traveling for work here and there, and some of those things have been curtailed because companies are trying to survive, they're trying to make a profit, and because of that, expenses have now changed on the side of the workers, where now they have to make do with the little that has been given, and yet the cost of living is extremely high and responsibilities will not give you a break, so to speak. So that's one of the findings in the report. But also the report notes that sometimes people are stressed in places of work because the places become toxic. And the report does mention that sometimes instead of people focusing on work and making the company better and serving their clients, there is a lot of office politics in places of work. And of course, some supervisors, leaders and bosses are also put on the spot when it comes to this report with the way they handle employees and how they give feedback. Because one of the researchers in the report says that instead sometimes of giving, what do you call it? The way someone gives criticism, there is something
Instead
he
of
mentions.
giving positive criticism.
Yes, there is something he mentions about trying to help someone instead of reprimanding them. Okay. And of course, if you've been in the corporate world especially, you know that sometimes the way criticism comes may either make or break the employee. But even when we go away from the corporate world and we go to, let's say, the informal sector, In this in the informal sector, most workers are actually working, but they don't even have an employee, what do we call it? No, not the manual. They do not have a contract. So the boss will pay you when he feels he should pay you. He will cut your salary when, let's say, sales are low and says, you're supposed to earn 600,000, but this month we didn't make sales, I'll give you 300,000. But remember, as an employee, you also have your responsibilities and expenses. And this alone is going to create an insecurity at work. So there is no job security for many people, and that alone is extremely stressful for workers.
And for the viewer out there was a total of 35 African countries that were sampled for the study with the report that was commissioned by the American Analytics and Advisory Company. Uganda coming in second, first is Chad, which is also a landlocked country. And surprisingly, Tanzania comes in as, Uganda comes in second, first is Chad, Tanzania is third. Then Kenya is way far away, 21st, which means their working environment is a little bit healthy and less stressful, if I'm to put it in that way. And of course, maybe it's the reason as to why many Ugandans are trying their luck in Kenya lately. Chantal, when you look at some of the cases of what is leading to these increased stress levels, because it does seem like this is a report where Ugandans were willing to share whatever they are experiencing in workspaces. But when you look at it from, from a perspective of someone who has interacted with fellow workmates or people you've worked with or in your different workspaces, what would be the causes of this increase?
A number of reasons we can really put forward, but I would really center my conversation on the work environment. We spend more of our time in these workspaces, but for example, if you're dealing with an abusive supervisor or an abusive boss, if you're dealing with a boss who cannot control, say, their emotions, if you're dealing with workmates that are maybe highly competitive or unrealistically competitive, that is going to be stressful. If you're also dealing with a workplace that sets unrealistic targets for you and deadlines, then definitely you are going to be stressed out. You know, you're going to be weighing, should I leave this job or should I stick around? But then if I leave the job, what are the chances that I'll get a job? Because we also do know that getting a job in this country is not the easiest path to take. Then also, you're staying in that place, but your mental health at the moment is being affected. So those are some of the things that have really, to be to the detail, those are some of the things that have led to stress in the workplaces. I had a conversation with one person who heads an organization. I told them, listen, you might pay these people money that may not cater for, say, for every cost of theirs, or cannot take away all their problems, but you can motivate them even more. Yes, by paying them on time, paying them a relatively good amount, but also you can motivate them by making the work environment livable for them. For someone who leaves home at 6 in the morning trying to beat jam and all that, that means they're getting to office 7:38. They're in office and they're leaving at 5. Sometimes they'll sit and wait out the jam and leave at 9. So imagine such a person spending all that time in a space that, one, threatens their mental well-being, threatens even their physical well-being at some point, because we have sexual harassment in there. We have a number of details that fall in there. So at the end of the day, it's the work environment that really plays a lot when it comes to this very discussion we are having. And lastly, of course, you will take it back down to how are we managing our expectations as individuals? And also to add to what Chantal has just said, sometimes, according to Dr. Hasfa Lukwata, who is the head of the mental health division at the health ministry, she says that sometimes people have personal problems or challenges they are facing away from work, but then they bring this anger into the place of work and make the place of work unlivable for the people that they work with. I'll give you an example. Many ladies, and I'm a lady myself and I've worked under women at one point, many ladies, when asked who they would prefer to be their boss, sometimes they will say,
a male boss. But why is this? It is usually because since we are naturally engineered or biologically engineered to be emotional, sometimes lady bosses don't know how to handle their personal issues at home, leave them there and come into the place of work and deal with work head on. So you'll find that someone is having issues at home, maybe with the children or the husband, and then they will bring that anger in the place of work and make it unlivable for the people that they work with. I've experienced this in as much as I know that there are also some awesome female bosses that know how to strike a balance between home and work. But also this is not just female bosses. Even some male bosses are very petty in the way they handle things. So you'll find that even them, the people who work under them, are also stressed. So it's a human problem across the board. It is the males, it is the females, and we all need to find a way to work together. But even, let's go away from the bosses, even us, the employees, we bicker. There is so much competition between us. There is a lot of backstabbing still, according to Dr. Hasfa. She says people are playing office politics. They are backstabbing each other for maybe promotions and whatnot.
And well, to you, our dear viewer, we are asking here, what in your opinion has led to the increased work stress among Ugandans? And if you're an employee currently and you're preparing to go to your workspace, what do you think has led to the increased levels of the stress that you're facing, or the kind of stress that you're dealing with in the workspace? You can easily tell us more details about that. Sorry for that display on the screen. The opinion says, our opinion poll says, what in your opinion has led to the increased work stress among Ugandans? You can share that on our WhatsApp number and as well on the X app using the hashtag UBCDMU as we dive deeper into what is causing these issues. But ladies, let's also look at the issue to do with the salary or the paycheck. Because at the end of the day, when you do realize the economic situations in Uganda today, everybody would wish to be working in an environment that is paying them handsomely. And Monica, you've mentioned something about the COVID-19 and many trying to stabilize or to restabilize after the shocks of COVID. When you look at the salary scales in Uganda, do you think they're also contributing heavily to the stress at workplaces?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we know that we need the jobs, we need these jobs, but it doesn't take away the fact that sometimes, in as much as, yes, you're working, you know that your paycheck at the end of the month is not going to solve half of the issues that you're faced with. Although we also should know as workers that there is no salary that, first of all, will ever make you rich.
Yes.
It's been said, established that you need to have other streams of income so that you do not depend only on your salary. But still, for many people, they probably don't have the capital or don't know where to start in having another stream of income. And because of this, they're depending on one salary, and that salary sometimes doesn't come in on time. Imagine, we've had even allegations, for instance, here in Uganda, in the media industry, where people go months without being paid. Also, you remember during the COVID-19 lockdown, when one influencer made headlines by saying that some media houses are paying people 50,000 and exposure. And imagine someone earning 50,000 or nothing, okay, and they have a family. So how are they going to manage? Or they're earning a very minute amount of money that cannot even handle their day-to-day living, like let's say transport or food. And someone out there may say, Olive, come on, you're exaggerating. But Sonko, you and I know that there are people who are earning very little to live by. So this alone is going to stress you. The other day I was watching a podcast, and this lady said for the first 2 years of her working, she was earning only 2,000 shillings. She was working for a lady in Mengo and staying in along Entebbe Road. So she would walk to and fro, okay? And because of that, tell me, assure me that that lady was not stressed around that time. Yet she had to come to work and deliver.
Oh, Chantal, let's mention something to do with mental health. Because even in this report, you do realize that mental health is something that many of the working environments in Uganda are not prioritizing as such. As much as we put it out that many of the employees will definitely come from home with their own issues and then throw them on fellow colleagues or even the customers who come, if at all the business is a service kind of business or industry. Mental health, is it high time companies started investing in that as well? As much as we are looking at the allowances and the like, but should we also have mental health discussions as a critical turning point for Uganda's labor sector?
We need to have that conversation and openly, and that is why you'll find that some workplaces that have started to realize the importance of the role of someone's mental well-being has, what the role of mental well-being has on someone's productivity. They have started incorporating therapy sessions for some of their employees. So it's something that needs to be put into consideration. However, business practices are very important when it comes to or organizational practices or corporate governance is very important. So if you find a workplace that is more people-centered, you realize that this person, yes, they want to make the profit, but if they're more people-centered, they will be caring for the people more, and the more you care for the people, the more you are enabling them to be productive and efficient, giving you the results. Now, that is something that some people are not aware that can make even more money for them. So if someone wakes up in the morning and all they can say is, arrogantly, if I may say, we are paying you to do this. So they are not bothered about whether you have a sick child at home. They're not bothered about whether you are unwell yourself. You have to show up and work. They're not bothered by what is happening in your personal life. But the truth is, if you are hiring someone, you are hiring all of them and their problems. Because if I walked out of this place and I made a mistake, yeah, and someone immediately recognized me and said, ha, UBC presenter, definitely there's going to be a mark and conversations around UBC and me as an individual. And that needs to be taken into consideration, that people's well-being mentally is very, very important. We've also seen cases where they try to organize staff retreats. But if you go to have conversations with people who go for the staff retreats, they'll be like, I'm just showing up because I have to show up. I'm just showing up because I don't want to stay at home. I will be bored. But if it were up to me, we are doing the same things year in, year out. You go for staff retreats, they're going to bring a facilitator, and then you'll jump. You get a few prizes here and there, do these games that they usually do, and that is it. That is not enough for someone to, for their mental health to be put into consideration. So the conversation needs to be had at home. And when someone has a challenge, the conversation needs to be had at office. When someone has a challenge back home, if there is a balance that is being given for them at work, the burden is less, and this person might even be in position to handle their personal lives way better. Again, we spend more time in these workplaces, so definitely we need to make sure that the environments we operate in are good enough for us to be able to function properly.
Well, and I have some comments coming along here. This one said, thank you, colleagues, for the show. I'm Chigwe Livingston of Ndeje Division in Reza. The state of workers in Uganda is full of stress because of the following reasons. The salary we get is not worthy for the work we do. Our bosses overwork us. Some of our bosses are too rude in that we fear them, and this affects our performance. It also leads to no delivery of their expectations. He also says sexual harassment in both male and female, so the collection of all these lead us into stressful life. And this one says, good morning. This is Tendo. The stress at work is literally brought about by poor and toxic environment, mostly created by immediate supervisors. And then this one says, good morning, my name is Diana from Jinja. Imagine someone arriving at work by 6 a.m. or even earlier, and yet her boss doesn't pay her wages at the end of the month or even give an explanation. not even offering meals at work and being paid 300,000 Ugandan shillings or less. Well, there was a comment about sexual harassment, and I want to throw that back to you ladies. Sexual harassment has become a very big issue in Uganda's working environment. How do we deal with that?
Well, the bosses need to know that, and by the way, okay, when I say the bosses, I now limit sexual harassment to only the supervisors and bosses, but actually even colleagues that you're on the same level with can sexually harass you. So I will say that when it comes to sexual harassment in places of work, maybe let's say it's a man that is sexually being harassed, there has to be, and women, there has to be proper ways or proper lines of communication and reporting these people. But it should not end at reporting, because in some workplaces you're going to report someone and nothing will be done, and then you will be victimized, and before you know it, you're even pushed out of the company. So employees need to feel safe that in the event that they have been sexually harassed, they can probably run to the HR and that they will be heard, and that an investigation will be launched, because sometimes people will claim sexual harassment when they just want to frustrate someone and fail them. Let there be an investigation, and then if the person reported is found guilty, then let HR or management deal with this person. But we know that most of this sounds very good here on TV and also on paper, but many organizations don't have proper channels of reporting or ways to handle, mechanisms to handle cases of sexual harassment. So you find that there are many ladies that have given up their jobs because they're being sexually harassed. And this should not be the case. Also, why are people misusing their position of power by, harassing sexually the people that report to them? That is extremely unprofessional. We need to go back to the tenets of professionalism, Jerome Paul, if you ask me. Because one person, because of their selfish needs, is now putting the career of another person in a precarious position. And I'll be honest, this is happening in pretty much most organizations. And it's really sad.
Really, really sad. Chanel Oliver Candida, when we talk sexual harassment, it comes in many forms. But in a work environment, at times it becomes very hard for you to deal with it, because one, you are at risk of losing your job if you come out to speak up. And then two, who is going to believe you? But how are we going to deal with this one? Because it is also a very, very challenging thing for those in the workspace.
It's a bit tricky, especially on the part where you would have to prove that this person, because some of the advances are very subtle.
Yes.
And how do you tell someone that he looked at me a certain way, that he winked at me, and that is now
scratched the middle
of the palm.
My palm.
Those weird things that people do. And how do you explain that to someone and they get it? It gets a bit tricky. However, I would advocate for individuals standing up for themselves and being straightforward and straight up with some of these people. And where you can, especially if you are in position, if someone has a bad reputation or has, such a reputation in the company, you need to one, have boundaries as an individual, the way you relate with them. Stay strictly professional. If they cross lines, be ready. We have phones that can do recordings. I'm giving an example. You have to be ready at all means. It is for your own sake. However, as an individual, the only way you can protect yourself is by having boundaries and trying to make sure that such people do not cross boundaries. And if they should, you have to be in position to stand your ground. Sometimes the people who are being sexually harassed have also created breeding grounds for the harassment to take place. So, as an individual, what is your contribution to that kind of harassment you are facing? If you're doing everything you should be doing in the right way, and you're still being, how can I put it? You're still being followed and pursued by this individual and harassed, then at the end of the day, there is a way you can collect that information about how this person is behaving. And the question of what if I lose my job? What is better to lose? The job or your principles and values as an individual. And once you start some of these things, they never stop. This is what they don't tell these people. They never stop. You're going to keep in that cycle until that day, either that person leaves or you leave. And also living with your conscience after that.
All right.
It is something that people need to put into consideration.
And well, of course, there are lots of things that really need to be worked upon if we are to improve our working environments in Uganda. Now, as we are ending up with our conversation this morning, I'll end with two of these comments. This one says, I'm a Kenyan. He says, ask Ugandans why a lot of relatives are employed in businesses, yet they are green. They are not trainable. And then also, he mentioned something to do with managers who do sexual harassment. And then he didn't leave the name. This one says, workers face a lot. It is brought about no wage bill in Uganda and workers' unions are all weak. This is Owen Raymond Mbale. He says, human resource management is also corrupt in some companies, making it very difficult. And lastly, Baleke Moses, General Secretary, Drivers Union, says that the stress of the employees in Uganda is all about employers refusing to recognize their workers' labor rights, including unionization. It is worse in transport sector, and drivers are political assistants attached to members of parliament. God should help Ugandans. Baleke Moses, General Secretary, Drivers Union. Thank you very much for watching, Mr. Baleke Moses. We shall fully be highly humbled if we happen to host you one time here on Good Morning Uganda. After the break, Alan Namisango returns with the GMU Tourism Express. More is coming along with the business updates and the traffic updates. You're watching Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Ham Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Live from UPC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning, Uganda. Welcome to the GMU Tourism Express. This is the perfect time for you to always tune in and listen to what is happening in the world of travel in Uganda and East Africa at large. So today it is an interesting edition that you're going to know more about Powate 2024. I'm with Dr. Gesa Simplicius from Uganda Tourism Board, the PIARA, to talk to us about Powate. Dr. Gesa, you're so welcome here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be hosted here in this show.
Dr. Gesa, you talked about partnerships and you mentioned Inabel coming in for the awards. And tell us some of those strategic partnerships, both within the sector and outside the sector, that have really worked with Uganda Tourism Board to push us to see that this expo is a success.
We have a very long list of partners that have been gracious enough to offer a helping hand. This list, even as I talk now, is still under generation because every other day we wake up with new support and we are grateful to these great partnerships. UBL is one of those that has significantly contributed to Powate 2024 edition. We have Total Energies. They've come in to support ways of ensuring that we are responsive to the environment. People may wonder how we have a number of things that Total is spearheading as a change agent to see how we can diversify certain things but still harness the environment. That is very, very important because normally oil and gas is associated to destruction. But if we have partners that are conscious that it has disadvantages it offers, but find ways of bringing the ecosystem back, which is normal construction, is a grateful thing we are happy with. We have also Uganda Airlines. Uganda Airlines are our partners. They've offered air tickets and supplemented the number of hosted buyer in, flying in the country to sell our destination. But being our airliner, it's a flagship airliner for us because it is strategic. It can bring in visitors from all the routes they have back home. So we can strategically work together to see how better we design content, what things we offer as discounts, what is good enough to be generated as content for them to survive that way. So we are building a number of partnerships, especially airliners. Airliners are very critical because they bring in the element of visitors. Today we have two, apart from Uganda Airlines that we have fronted as our flagship airline, we have others coming on board. A few days ago, our CEO signed a very, very significant partnership memorandum of understanding with Emirates, for example. Emirates is offering a number of things like, one, working with Uganda Tourism Board to bring in experts, say the media from source markets, tour operators, hosted buyers from destination markets into the country to do the sole job of marketing. It has given us discounts on baggage, for example, when we have materials we are carrying to expose and whenever to participate in these expos. They've given not only Uganda Tourism Board but tour operators, the media, they are giving them special discounts on that and special fares to fly out. But the most important thing is that they are also going to play our content in the cabin.
Wow.
Yeah, so that when visitors are coming in, all going out, they anticipate what they will have firsthand by playing these enticing videos that tell about our destination. But it's not Emirates alone. We are also having one partnership did with the SN Brussels to play some of this content. So yeah, we are, as Uganda Tourism Board, emphasizing partnerships, because with partnerships you're sure that you have a longer stride of movement despite the little money that we have as a marketing institution. We can take advantage of these partnerships to see how we can spread further our wings.
When partnerships, especially those outside the industry, are really interesting, and when you talk about those like for the airlines, you see, those are really strategic partnerships that can streamline promotion of Uganda as a tourism destination. But those partnerships that may be a bit outside the industry, like Total, UBL, what value do you think is Uganda Tourism Board is giving back to these partners, such that maybe even someone else could be interested to come and partner with Uganda Tourism Board in the next expo?
Tourism is everybody's business.
True.
And it offers enormous platform for anyone participating in the industry. Because one, it has a 360 feel. It is very much within interest of UBL for people to consume the beer. A beer is a happy drink. People consume it when they are happy. Tourism is not a funeral sentence. It is an enjoyable, free-giving, relaxing moment.
True.
Yeah, so when we have a number of people coming in the country, one, it gives them a platform to do business, but also it gives them diversity to reach out to the masses. Because remember, for it goes through the entire value chain, from the lowest person to the highest. And it has a way it attracts the youth. Yeah. The youths are so engraved into that
sector,
market.
yeah.
So every partner, we found ourselves offering a platform that reaches out to everybody within the sector. So partners are encouraged to take advantage of the number of things that we do together as an endorsement, so that we can together add value to the sector.
And that is it that we heard from Dr. Gesa, the head of PR at Uganda Tourism Board. Well, I think it is an opportunity for you to show up at the Pearl of Africa Tourism Expo and open up doors that you never thought that you would. Thank you so much for watching. Catch you tomorrow.
Staying with us, my name is Chantal Olive Akandinda, here with your business updates this morning, making sure that you as a business owner or anyone interested in that, we get to give you some news on what is happening. Now, we are starting off with Casita. We all do know that even last week we had a bit of strikes when it came to the traders, but also we also do remember that President Museveni got to meet the traders at Kololo. Now, the leadership of Kampala City Traders Association, that is Casita, met with over 200 traders, and that was because there was a discussion that had to be had on finding a way forward when it comes to after the meeting that they had with the president of the Republic of Uganda, that is President Yoweri Museveni, and this meeting took place on the May 7th. Now, the discussion focused on this particular system that has caused a lot of contention, that is the IFRIS system, and other tax penalties that had been imposed on by the Uganda Revenue Authority. And according to traders, these were not addressed by the president, if you remember very well how that went. But also traders agreed that to keep their businesses open until June 20th. That is when they expect to meet with the president again to further have the discussion on the way forward. Well, we hope that this pans out pretty well for the traders, because when the traders are not working, I can assure you business is on a standstill. This was witnessed as of last week. You couldn't access certain things in certain areas because of these strikes. So hopefully we get to have a resolution sooner than later. Now, moving on, let's take a look at the State Minister for Finance, Privatization and Investment, that is Honorable Evelyn Anite, launched what we call the Uganda Investment Authority Domestic Investment Division, and this is aimed at developing Uganda, especially in industrialization. So if you are out there and you are hoping to invest in that particular section, this is good news for you, and it will contribute to Uganda's GDP by $500 billion, and that is the target by the end of the National Development Plan 4. So this is good news for the industrialization sector, and hopefully we get to see this pan out pretty well for the country in general and for the growth and development of the economy. Now, moving on, we take a look at the Ministry of Trade Union and Corporate, the Ministry of Trade Union and cooperative members and farmers have reawakened the call to revamp the National Cooperative Bank. And this is majorly aimed to iron out challenges faced by farmers and these challenges majorly have been seen as what is keeping the farmers poor, and this is aimed at making sure that this changes over time. The system has also exposed them to exploitative middlemen. This is a discussion that definitely has to be concluded, because the middlemen seem to be taking way more than they should from the farmers. You realize that when you get to if you are a middleman, for example, if I went to say, for example, the West, and I bought bananas, if I'm buying the bananas at 10,000 Uganda shillings, I might get here and I'm selling them at 25 or even 30, depending on how big they are. So you realize the farmer is getting less, yet they're putting in more, and this is definitely good news. Now, this is at the cost. This is as the cost of doing business on the side of farmers is high, and this threatens their efforts to achieve the rich value addition that for you to be able to attain value addition, or to get value addition, or to that point, you need to have these conversations, and this is definitely good news for the farmers. So we are looking at the revival of the National Cooperative Bank. So if you are a farmer out there, this should be good news for you. And now that's it for the business stories. Let's take a look at how we were trading when it comes to forex by closure of business as of yesterday. Now we are starting off with the US dollar opening at 3,760 shillings. That is buying and selling at 3,770 Uganda shillings. By closure of business yesterday, the US dollar was buying at 3,759 and selling at 3,769 Uganda shillings. The Great Britain pound was closing at 4,721 for you who was buying, and selling at 4,734 shillings. The euro was buying at 4,055 shillings, selling at 4,066 shillings. The Kenya shilling was buying at 28.80 and selling at 28.88. The Tanzanian shilling closed at 1.45, that is buying, and 1.46 for you who was selling. And the South African rand was buying at 204.5 Uganda shilling, selling at 205.12 Uganda shillings. And well, that's it for our business updates this morning. Thank you for sticking around. Olive Monica comes up next with the traffic updates as you're trying to get your way to town.
Time for our traffic updates. My name is Olive Monica Najuma. Now, before we delve deeper into the traffic updates for the day, I would like to give you a few tips if you're taking a long trip. Now, if you're taking a long trip, sometimes it can have so much weight on your body because you are seated for long stretches of time. So it's important, especially if you are in a self-drive car or if you're being chauffeured, to take some breaks, stretch your legs, and of course take your bathroom breaks. But also it's important to keep yourself hydrated so that your body is working very well, so that you maintain your health in a good space. And of course, as you're traveling, for the ladies, I know most men will not take so much care of their skins. You need to also pack some sunscreen depending on where you're going. Now, some people think that when they're driving, the sun is not reaching them. But if you look at your hands and you look at the one that is facing the window, you will realize that you have hyperpigmentation. So as you drive, you might as well consider taking care of your skin. And of course, sunscreen helps you to avoid cancer. But as you're seated in that car, you need to also protect your skin. Now let's move on to our traffic updates of the day, and we are picking it up from Sunday and see how we can move through the areas of Namgongo and then Nalia. Now, starting off in Sonde, along Sonde Road, we see that there is a slow movement of traffic as at this juncture, but then it transitions into heavy traffic jam for those going the side of Namgongo. I see a long stretch of traffic jam on Sonde Road, and as we move along and ahead, the traffic jam now starts to be in phases. There are some spaces where you're going to find it, and there are other spaces where you're going to encounter smooth flow of traffic along Sonde Road. And in some places, it won't be intense traffic jam, but also it won't be very smooth, so you may be delayed and be moving at a snail pace in some of these spaces. Now, moving on to Namgongo Road, we see that we have smooth flow of traffic at the intersection, at the juncture where Sonde Road transitions into Namgongo Road. We have smooth flow of traffic, and as we move ahead still with Namgongo Road, I see that we still have smooth flow of traffic. Now, the beauty along Namgongo Road is that most of the sections that have been under works are now free to be used. I saw this morning that in Chaliwajala, as you transition into Nalia, there is now, the road is fully done. There are no roadworks going on in that part, so you should be able to move without encumbrances. I know people Namgongo side have been really struggling. Still looking at Namgongo Road, I see that we still have a smooth flow of traffic over there in Namgongo Road. Now let's rush and see what this looks like around the trading center in Chaliwajala. Now, before you cross into Nalia, I see that there is some traffic jam along the stretch that is coming in from Namgongo side as you cross through in the trading center in Nalia. Now, for those coming in from Chira side, I see that still right before this intersection, there is a traffic jam in this area. And now moving into Nalia side, we are now experiencing smooth flow of traffic in this environment. And continuing still with Namgongo Nalia Road, I see that there is a bit of traffic jam that is coming in from Chimbeja Road and feeding into the main Namgongo Nalia Road. And of course, as we are approaching the bypass, I see that we are experiencing traffic jam in this section right before the Namgongo Nalia bypass in that side. But the beauty is that after that side, there is a smooth flow of traffic, and right around the bypass itself, I see that we have smooth flow of traffic. At least I don't see any red zones around the bypass. Now continuing with the Chaliwajala Nalia Road, as now we head to the side of Ntinda, we still have smooth flow of traffic in this area. So if this is the route you've chosen to use this morning, for the most part, you're not going to be delayed on the road. Well, I wish you the best as you traverse Uganda's roads this morning and as you head to your place of work and business. Good Morning Uganda continues, and up next is Agenda with Jerome Paul Sonko.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Peak of the day on UBC.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
Was brought to you by
Just take a polite loan of 200k to stock my shop. The signs and symptoms of success. The bank commander, not the bank teller.
Why hassle for a loan when you've got MTN Momo? We're sorting it. Use the Momo app or dial *165*5# for all quick loans. Choose from the different loan options from our partners and get one that works for you. Together, we're unstoppable.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish development model, PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, Sebatia. It is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a portrait project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. But what you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The Parish development model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better. PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Nyati Motion Pictures brings you Tuko Pamoja, a documentary film about our unity as Ugandans and Africans.
Bunyoro would have simply created an East African community that we are looking for today.
The rulers of Bunyoro are actually Luos.
We people who live across the Nile, we are so related from our myth or from just the Nile.
We are the same people, and genetically we are even the same people.
We are similar people.
We are one.
Pamoja, we are one.
Use that word, pamoja.
Premiering every week from 3rd February to June 2024 at the National Theatre and Indere Center. Daily screenings are from 4th February to June 2024 at Hams Cinemax and the National Theatre. To get a ticket, call 0778 787 660. Tuko Pamoja?
Maina gangende tibana kiranda amina. Mu company Air Web Uganda Limited ndi member. Wemba member company eno weyeida twalinga tutuli bulungi ng'abakyala abe wakawaka. Abakyala abe wakawaka tuemera ku baami baife nga bonkana abajamu nandanga twidi nti abakyala tebakozesa ki nanda. UN Women weyeida yatuteekateeka yatwegesa okulunda engege ng'abakyala. Twatandika beno okudulunda n'okudirisa n'okolaki. Twafuna mu ng'abakyala aba Bugiri district. Abakyala ba Bugiri district sofa tuli abakyala 14 abakola project eya web. Abakyala 14 twayawula mu sectors. Mulimu abakyala ba production, abaliisa, mwaba abakyala ba validation, abongera engege omutindo bayongerako omutindo. Twaba n'abakyala ba harvesting, aba harvestinga. Twaba n'abakyala abakola aba marketing. Sector dona diri trained era didi chedikola ki chedikola project eno tufunye mu ng'abakyala government yaife ne ya Uganda njebaza okuja kujanga batulingirira mu ng'abakyala abana Uganda eri kujanga eturobingira ebibiina bingi. We have UWeb baleta Parish development model, we have myoga byona biri kwida muki mu bakyala oba mu bantu abaki aba Uganda.
PDM, changing lives.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, the young people, like it's always said, make the majority of our population. And currently we are in the population census, and we're highly expected to be about 50 million Ugandans. So we shall wait to see how many of those are young people, or how many of those are the youth? Our conversation this morning in our Good Morning Uganda agenda is looking at the role of the youth in nation building. So we need to know, what do the young people play? Which role, which part are the young people playing in nation building? We may as much say that the young people are supposed to be involved in policy making, they're supposed to be involved in the politics, they're supposed to be involved in business decisions. But what role are we giving them in this space? Building the nation is something that you can definitely look into and try to understand that if we started today, or if we started way back by having the young people in these spaces, maybe the country would be far away. Who knows? And here we are. Chemo Masood Musa is my guest this morning. He's a business person or an entrepreneur, a young leader, if I'm to put it in that way. And well, he's coming in from the Sebei sub-region, a region that is well known for producing Uganda's best athletes from the world of athletics. So you will definitely see that it's a region that has played a very key role, or a critical role, in pushing Uganda's sports world to the brim. But not only that, even when it comes to the agriculture sector, the Sebei sub-region also performs steadily well. Building the nation and the role of the young people is what we are going to be discussing this morning. A very good morning, Chemo. You're live on UBC.
A very good morning, my brother Sonko.
Okay, and it's a pleasure having you this morning. We're talking about the young people, but first, where are you coming from? I've mentioned Sebei sub-region, but where are you coming from, like the district, and how are the young people in the region? Are they part of the nation building that we are yet to discuss this morning?
Yes, thank you so much. Like you said, my name is Chemo Masood Musa, and I come from Sebei sub-region, particularly Kapchora as a district. And you know, it's subdivided into sub-counties and then small regions. I come from the Greater Kasserem. And within the region, we have young, vibrant people who are so much interested in transforming their society and or the country they live in.
Okay. And if one would ask, what inspired you to, you know, get involved into these spaces of, you know, pushing for youth involvement in government policies, or as well as in, you know, in regional kind of topics and the like?
My first inspiration is my passion to make my society a better place every day. Given very many factors that have hindered growth and development, you realize that within the Great Sebei sub-region, we are an area where God has blessed us, or has positioned us well, that we are in position to produce like I told you the last time, the fastest human beings on Earth planet, where we are in position to, our boys are in position to go or move outside the country and even secure the foreign currencies that have always developed the country. And for that reason, therefore, I feel as an individual that there should be a format, there should be a better way of how we can transform my society, which is Sebei sub-region, by identifying and understanding how best we could, you know, we could develop the talent of the people and tap their enthusiasm in how they want to transform their society.
Okay.
Yes.
Henry Barlow in Building the Nation, a poem that takes me back to my high school days, says, today I've played my part in building the nation. I don't know which part you're playing today as an individual or as a viewer or as a Ugandan, but well, do it so diligently so that we can see the results in the aftermath. But looking at the role of education, first off, what role can education do in having the young people involved in the topic or in building our nation today?
Education is a very broad sector as far as nation building is concerned. You realize that as government, or as within people within government, you realize that every other young man should have a learning, should attain an education, so that they are in position to translate things here and there. You know, you realize that when someone is educated, they will be in position to even learn how to communicate and how to appear before other people, so they could be given audience to be identified as, you know, as competent people to also compete in a competing world. You realize that technology and education, you know, technology is taking shape, it's taking a huge part within the nation building. And so when people are educated, you realize that we will be in position to know. Given a case in point is we have to introduce new cultures on how to develop our nation. If you can talk about the recent technological initiatives like doing robotics, our young people or within the country, if we can embrace the need to understand on how to deal with robotics, how to create a robot, so that we are in a competing world, you realize that education will also help us to see how we can develop our society. And the other thing is also learning, embracing to learn new languages, so we could be in position to move here and there, so we could tap resources that could develop our country.
Chimo, as a youth leader, have you been involved in any engagement or any initiative back in Kapchora or within the Sebei sub-region that have inspired the young people or that are looking forward at promoting young people and their involvement in civic management in the country?
Yes, definitely, yes. I have always been on sport, on how we could see how to transform our society. The case in point is, as a young man, I've always wanted to understand how best we could improve livelihood of the people. And within there, I came up, as an individual, I came up with a charity foundation called Learn First Foundation. And Learn First Foundation has its objective, its intended objective is to transform lives and cause a self-reliant society, whereby we have been able to identify skills within the young people and to realize of what we could do for them to transform their lives.
Okay, and speaking of transforming the lives, let's get into the regional imbalances. By the look of things, not all regions are fairly, you know, performing in many sectors in Uganda today. What do you think has led to this issue?
Number one is what has led to the imbalances with the regional imbalancing is because our people have not been able to be recognized or realized of the competence that are in them. So you realize that when someone is in Sebei and they know of what could be done to develop a certain society or develop a certain idea, there is nowhere, there is no spot that could, you know, could lead them to be identified. So it's of my interest that if government, you know, puts up you know, looks into its initiative of incubation centers where young people will be identified to do different things. Young people will be identified of the eloquence in them and how they could do things. You see that at the end of the day, our country would be developed. So number one thing is, if government can come into, you know, to put, you know, an eye on its initiatives like the incubation centers, you realize that young people will explore their talents through such avenues.
Okay, and then looking at the youth unemployment rates today, what opportunities do you think can easily be created to put an end to this and involve the young people into employment spaces and also supporting their startups?
Number one, among the very many factors is funding. The youth should be identified and the youth should be funded. And how would you fund a youth? I still appeal that there should be recreational centers, avenues whereby youth should always, you know, be put in groups so that they are in position to be identified of what could be done. You know, you realize that a young man would have an idea of doing something, but they have nowhere to go. They have nowhere to go and no one could identify them easily. So you realize that when we are in position, to bring the youth into recreational centers or incubation centers. Several youth will be able to identify their talents, and at the end of the day, we will be able to empower them according to what they know best. Given an example is, you see the American style of doing things. I was watching through the Mandela Washington conference that was initiated by the former president of America, that is Barack Obama. You realize that the Mandela Washington Fellowship has been an avenue of identifying eloquent youth and people with vibrant ideas, you know, so that people have been supported according to what they could do best. So I appeal as an individual and as the youth of this country that our government should also come in and to put up things like that, so that we are able to do more civic education, civic learning, and engage the youth into proper ways of developing their country.
And then, you know, you've mentioned that from the West, an example from the West. But when you look at the other places world over, in regards to how the youth have been involved, and when you look at the things here, what lessons can we learn from those successful, you know, countries that have involved the young people into decision making, into businesses, into the employment world, generally even the politics? Like, what can we learn and pick from them?
Several lessons have been learned. You given a very nice point, but you've gone so far. Just looking at the recent activities of the PLU movement, you realize that the most vibrant people that were realized of competence were picked and you know, they were positioned into running the affairs of this country, and that was a good thing. So you realize that if our people are engaged, or our people are given proper civic education and to know of their responsibilities and their capabilities in them, you realize that several young people will be identified through different movements and through different initiatives. You see, I'm taking an example of the recent appointed minister, who is Balam, Minister Honorable Balam. You realize that through his innovations of the system, the public system address, and his immediate or direct engagement within government affairs, you know, the positive ways of doing things has been one of the factors that has led to his success and identification as one of the most competent person to run the affairs of this country.
Okay, let's talk about the issue of the marginalized youth and how they can easily tap into the available opportunities, because the issue here is, at times, many of the young people do not have access to opportunities that can spur development within the affairs of their lives. But how can we try to create room to see that these young people also get to benefit from the opportunities, from the services, from the government programs, and so many of the other initiatives?
There are very many factors as to how we could engage the youth and let them be identified to also benefit from the services within this country. And one among the many is there should be a policy making that affect the well-being of the youth, whereby our youth should be given, you know, marginalized youths are not in position to go into what should be done by them because of the policies. So if there are policies that could favor their well-being and identify them to come close into avenues where people are going to identify them, then you realize that we would have done a service in transforming the mindset of the youth.
Okay. And then looking into your participation, now this is a little bit personal, your participation in youth-related issues in the country, and what you aspire to become as an individual. You know, this is a conversation where we're looking at the young people, but you as an individual, what do you look at? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? What do you want to achieve, and what do you intend to put forward for the young people in the country?
As an individual, I have a broad interest. I have several desires, and one among the many is taking over leadership within this country. I feel that the leadership in this country should be entrusted within the young, the mindset of within the minds, the young minds of the young people.
Okay.
Or the leadership of this country should be entrusted into the young people, because we feel we understand exactly what should be done, given the research we have done, given several things, and understanding how government policies should be put in place. I feel in the next few years we will be in position to understand what we could do, so that at the end of the day we could transform our society into a better thing.
Are you seeing yourself as a youth leader or someone bigger than that?
I look at myself as someone bigger than a youth leader. I feel this country should be put into our hands, so that we could see how we could transform it into a better thing.
I mentioned something about the sub-region being home to talent in regards to sports from Uganda's perspective. Promoting sports among the young people. World over, sports is well paying. There was a time when social media was trying to make comparisons of Project Mbappe, where every parent feels like their child should be the next Mbappe because of the money he's earning at a very young age as a footballer. But when we also look at the other athletes, you get to realize that sport is something that the young people can directly get involved in. Now, from a region like Sebei, what should we do to promote our talents? It may not only be athletics. There's football, there's rugby, there's boxing, and the like. What should we do just from the grassroots? What should we do right, if that is the right way to put it?
There are several things we should do as a region. There are several things we should do for Sebei sub-region. And among them is, we don't only look at tourism, because now tourism has been known for it, but there are yet other ventures like athletics. Our young people have been so much into athletics, and there are yet more to be identified. So what I feel could be done, since our young people within the Great Sebei region have been able to tap foreign currencies that have developed this country, that have led to the development of this country, we feel we are still behind and something should be done. And among this is we should put up more centers, more identification centers, more incubation centers, so that we are in position to transform society by identifying more young people. Because if we are in position to produce like 20 athletes who are bringing in gold, silver, and other medals, then you realize that there is yet more that we could do, so that we transform our society through athletics. And besides putting that aside, we need to also transform the lives of our people through education system. We still have to improve the education system, or our athletics should be improved into the athletic line of life, so that we see how we could transform our society.
Okay. And to you, dear viewer, you get to realize that our topic of building the nation does, take us into understanding that we're not only going to be tasking the government to build the nation. We are most likely to build the nation on our own. How? Because we are the government, and that means everything we do contributes to how the country is perceived by those neighboring us, or by the Western world, from the Eastern camp as well. And as much as we seek for changes, development, and of course, everything that we yearn for, better services, but we also have to lay something on ground to build a strong foundation for a nation that we look at as the people within the country. So we're looking at building the nation and the role the young people can do to build the nation. But besides that, also looking at some of the obstacles that the young people are facing along the way, because as much as we are looking at seeing them involved in building the nation, but maybe they are facing some obstacles. And Chemo, when you look at the obstacles or some of the things that have limited youth participation in building the nation. What, in your view, are those?
There are very many ways as to why the youth have not been, directly involved. But among the many is the youth, the understanding of the youth himself. A certain youth should understand of their roles and what they should do in transforming society. And among them is the civic engagement. The young people should be in position to understand that they are the key players into the growth and development of any nation or any society. And this talks about the engagement into political spheres and the electoral processes. Someone should be in position to talk on behalf of other people, so that others could understand exactly of who a leader of a particular society should be. Because they should be the young people. I feel every other young man could have learned now, given the digitalization within the country and the technology that has improved every day. We believe that even the youth of mobile phones have transformed the life of the people. And that is why I feel that, as in a video, the young people should first understand of what capabilities are in them, so that the society could be transformed. And among the many is that the government should come in to engage with the people, with the young people directly, and involve them in decision making. For example, when you look at the West, I will give you an example of the West. When you look at the Prime Minister of the UK Prime Minister, he's a young man. Talk about the Prime Minister of Sweden, he's a young man. But some of them have had, backgrounds, that have enabled them to be identified as competent people to run the affairs of the country.
Okay, let's talk matters, politics and governance, because here is the center of attention in our country. Just a few months from now, we shall be gearing up for 2026, as the roadmap will be out already in regards to the new political terms that will be laid by the Electoral Commission. Now, in the political space of Uganda, and in regards to the governance of our country, how do we involve these young people? Because, like you mentioned earlier, the young people know their problems better than many of the leaders we are currently having today, which means we would wish to have the young people in these spaces. But over the years, the young people have been limited to being involved in decision making. And of course, that means many things have not been addressed, because they have few representatives, and their voices are not as heard as those of the elderly. So let's look into that situation of the politics and governance space.
Politics and governance is a broad area we would look into. But of course, I'm going to take a few examples. I'm going to cite a few examples on how government has always run its affairs in engaging the young people. I feel that when there are avenues where government is addressing a nation, maybe he has moved to the West, he has moved to Sabay sub-region, he has moved to West Nile, you realize that within those avenues or within those conferences or gatherings, government has not been in position to identify a few young people that could even give eulogies on how certain government has been managing its affairs, and how they could, government has also been in position to identify and get to know directly from the youth, or engage them directly into the program, the program process of such a function or a particular function. So you realize that putting youth aside without engaging them directly into certain such activities, limits their growth and development, and that one hinders the growth of and development of any country.
Okay. Yes. And do you think if we are given the opportunity of having the young people in top offices, changes will be made? There is always also a concern about how the young people react or act while they're in these spaces of work, especially when it comes to the politics and the pride they possess, and at times they forget that they are supposed to be serving for the people.
The challenge is that as we push for the youth well-being, in engaging them into public offices, what we could do most is, to change the mindset of the young man, and to talk to them. And for them, they should understand of what capabilities that are in them. They should know of what role they play. The challenge is that why you see sometimes you may see in the streets young people are, floating into the names of calling, calling loudly about the opposition. It's because, not because these people know what they're doing sometimes. Some of them do not understand why they should get into a certain line and why they should get into certain groups. But it's because there is yet a lot that has not been done in transforming and changing the lives, the mindset of the people. Case in point is our media has been in position to spread by some of the public figures has spread different languages and created hate within the young people towards a particular government, and that is why, and that leads to a subconscious mentality and selective information processing, whereby someone thinks that Sonko is a bad leader, and why should he be the one taking over leadership again and again? Not understanding. They have not been, made to understand first and foremost how maybe a particular country has been raised and how far it has come and where it's leading. Young people have not been in position to understand where a country should go. And what should be done by them in order to involve themselves into community and country or nation building.
Okay.
So you realize that that's one of the challenges, that people do not understand exactly what should be done at a particular time.
You mentioned something about the media, and which brings me to asking, what do you think the media should do to amplify the voices of the young people?
The media particularly should first engage into letting the young people understand of how far maybe a particular country has come, and what they should do in order to, how they should include themselves in order to see a country transformed, but not allowing bad languages that could be used on media. I feel even media to some extent, maybe in a few years to come, we will not be able to to allow things that would not portray a better understanding to a young man, because when you realize that we do copy and paste. Sometimes when you see someone abusing a leader on social media, maybe from another country, I've been following media so much, and you realize that what our young people see from other nations is what they want to portray into their country in the names of wanting to transform and being patriotic. And yet that is not the best way to transform a society. So we feel media should, reduce on the language that is being used, so that we could transform the lives of our young people into a better thing.
And the mindset of the young people, let's look at the mindset of the young people. Do you think the young people today are more involved in the politics, or they are involved in the politics because they know politics is worth giving a try because of the money that comes at the end of the month or at the end of everything, if you get involved in the politics? Is there interest because of patriotism, or it's interest because of monetary terms?
Interest because of monetary terms, because the young people have not been in position to understand, like I told you, why they should engage into certain lines. And it's not only within the young people. We even see it from those who are beyond our age, beyond the youth line. You realize that even within certain groups of people, I can give you certain movements within the country whereby members have followed such groups in order to prove a point that, I want to be here because the interest why they follow certain movements is known to them, but it's not to transform. Because if I was following Sonko, and that Sonko is coming to sub-region, you, Sonko, who seeks or looks for or has desires to take over leadership within this country, before you come to my region, if it's me interacting with you, and then I will first engage you into doing something that could transform my society. For example, my area as Sabay sub-region has challenge in health. And we talk about, when talking about health, you're talking about things of understaffing, You realize that one of the health centers within my region and the area that I come from, that has been upgraded as health center 4, do not have persons that run certain machines, and they are hired. I was informed that an individual is hired to come, 2 days in a week, and that has been a disadvantage to all of us. And that is why we say that as a leader who is coming into a certain area and someone who is involved with a particular person, we should be in position to tell them of what should be done to our people so that we can consider content and competence within these people to transform our society.
Okay, and businesses, you're an entrepreneur, and businesses have, have that chance to promote and grow an individual, whether you're involved in the decision making or not. But some of the young innovators and entrepreneurs in Uganda today are also facing a problem of breakthroughs, and others are not surviving as much because there is no support that they are getting. What ways can we support the young people, especially the innovators and the entrepreneurs, to see that they also grow before our country grows? Because at the end of the day, if they start,
we need to continue. The government has to continue with it is initiatives to see how we could transform the lives of the people. I am certain about the government initiative, the youth fund that has been running for some time now, and a few years back, I've not been seeing the youth livelihood initiatives, being championed. So what I mean is that government should still improving livelihood through maybe art and craft and sustainable agriculture, doing a number of things here and there. You realize that our young people have got a lot of talent, but they do not have the knowledge. Someone should just be given knowledge on how to use particular soils, They should be taught, those ones who would wish to do agriculture should be taught on how on how certain soils would match with certain crops. You realize that a few years back when I was young, I used to see people go to centers to do learning of the NADIS initiative that government has put in place. And so I am applauding my voice and calling upon government to still bring back these initiatives where people go into societies to learn about certain knowledge and certain ideas, so that they are able to transform their society in very many ways. So what I'm saying to you, my brother Sonko, is that our people should be in position to be transformed by identifying or putting up centers of learning so that people are in position to learn new things day by day.
Okay. And, well, of course, you also get to realize, by the way, you've mentioned something about the young people and then sustainability. My concern is, though, as we talk about sustainable development for the young people and creating, government initiatives that will support the businesses, this issue of sustainability has become a pain in the head for many of the Ugandans today. My question is to you, what do you think should be done to create sustainability? One, in the education sector, entrepreneurship, then when it comes to the social affairs, and of what value can our cultures do to lead to this sustainability?
Given that point, I want to tell you that there are several things we could be done in order to transform our society. And when you talk about the cultural well-being, the cultural initiative and the cultural behavior of a particular area, you realize that things to do with business and such cultures, have been in position to enable him thrive so that he could maintain his businesses. And things like agriculture and farming, when you talk about farming or agriculture, you're talking about livestock, you're talking about commercial, you're talking about subsistence farming. So you realize, I can give you a case in point of the western, within Uganda, the western part of Uganda, that is the Ankole. You realize that every other person is involved into into the family affair and the family activities. You realize that even within the Ankole region, a particular girl would go to graze their cows and their animals and see the well-being of a particular business. And that is why I feel that, such initiatives should continue all over this country, and people should be taught on how certain things could be used. A case in point is, I want to share with you that market is one of the #1 area that should be focused as far as business is concerned. So you realize that a young farmer is participating participating in poultry farming, but at the end of the day, they do not have market. Someone could, or they could be having market, but how they brand their product is also a challenge. So you realize that government should come in, fund the young people so that they're in position to meet some of the standards that could lead them to securing market, local and international.
Okay.
You realize that you will not supply eggs that are mixed up with the waste of the chicken, and think that you will compete with someone that had a separate area of feeding their chicken and separate area of collecting their eggs from. So you realize that there is a lot that is still needed. There is a lot that should be done to see that the lives of the people can be transformed.
Okay, and for the young people in the Sebei sub-region, Chimor, what is their main strength by the look of things? At times, there is always a statement being used on social media that back in the time men used to go to war, and the current men we're having today are simply the opposite. Or they have weaknesses that many people feel do not represent the element of the men of the African culture. But this is not necessarily meant to direct to a specific gender, but basically looking at the young people. In your observation, why I'm talking about the Sebei sub-region, it's because it's where you're coming from and you've been able to identify and observe many of the things. Where is the main strength of the young people within that region per se? And then what are the weaknesses and what can we do?
The strength of the recent identified strength of the young people is athletics and tourism.
Okay.
You realize that given Sebei's topography and the geographical location, we have very beautiful sceneries within the region. And within within that region, our young people have been in position to tap resources from international tourists, and they're guiding them into viewing these areas. So we realize that as a case in point, tourism is one of the immediate sector that is improving the growth and development within this country. We feel that as Sebei sub-region, we need government has to come in to teach people on proper basics on how to deal with tourists. We need to put up centers, learning centers, on where people are going to learn new ideas and new ethics on how to do proper guidance of the tourists, so that we are in position to tap more resources, so that when an investor or a tourist comes in and is being involved with a certain particular use, the service that is rendered to them will help them to always keep in mind that they could come in, and they are coming in again and again would actually lead to the growth of our country through a foreign exchange.
Okay, and what advice would you be giving to the young people who are seeking to make changes and of course make impactful decisions in their communities?
Very many things I would tell the youth. One is a youth should understand of the capability in them. Okay. They should understand what they could do, and the youth should push away themselves from the basics within the young people. Is that we need to learn to understand of what is good and what's wrong. And the young people should be in position to do a lot of research. They should do a lot of reading. They should involve within their circle. They should be able to understand or realize that their circle earns them a better change, a better living, so that they could be able to transform their society.
Today, the young people are involved in so many things, so many activities that do not seem to be helpful, or things that for fun, but are never going to, you know, put them in places where we feel they should be in the next few years. At times, as much as we say we are the future of this country, but when you look at the people who claim to be the future of the country, at times we are left hopeless and only on our knees to pray for the future we want to create. And as we're summing up with our conversation this morning, what has happened to our generation today? What, in your view, has led to the young people getting engaged in things that are not developmental for them?
I will tell you, my brother, that the young people have been in position to get involved into several acts that would have tarnished the image of a particular country in a way, in several ways. You realize that even the sexual immorality within the young people is because of the activeness, the hormonal activeness within the young people. You realize that the young people have always been in position to move overseas, and when they come back, they're too much excitement, and how they have learned new cultures, you know, would lead them to doing bad things within societies. And what we are trying to say is that every young man should always be aware of themselves and how they could transform, and that when they move outside the countries, they should always learn of good things. They should use technology in the best way. They should, you know, be in position to talk to us about what we could do. They should be in position to do, you know, acquire new skills, so that we are in position to understand that a particular youth is in position to transform our society in one way or the other. So that is why I'm saying that, you know, what we could do for our people is that the young people should be channeled and should be talked to, so that they could, you know, they're in position to understand what is based on them and what could be done in a particular country to see that a country develops in a better way.
Okay. And I'll just end this conversation with some few comments coming through from our WhatsApp number. This one says, good morning, UBC. Thanks for the show. Sonko and Musa, I'm just enjoying the program. Very educative to the young people, but unfortunately, some of them are not anywhere near their TV sets to watch this important discussion. Thanks, Ogwang David Cosmos from Abim District. Thank you very much for watching. Then this one says, actually, Sebei region are good people. There is also maggot farming, part of the agricultural sector in Sebei. This is Owen Raymond from Mbale. Oh, wow, Raymond, thank you very much for this comment. I've been having a Chamoy Bashir Musa this morning from the Sebei sub-region, a man who is also highly interested and aspiring to be a leader in this country. Our conversation was looking at the role of the young people in building the nation. I'll only leave you with one task: to search for Building the Nation by Henry Barlow, a poem that will tell you a lot about building the poem, and you can pretty much understand the literature in the diction. Thank you very much for joining us this morning, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
All right. And then coming along after the break is Ruben P. Machibirango with sports this morning. More sports news and more heartbreaks for the Arsenal fans, I should say. Good morning.